A Journey Through Time's Gentle Evenings. Section 1. Introduction and Framework. Welcome, dear traveler through time and memory, as you settle into this moment, into this breath, into the soft embrace of wherever you rest. Know that you are about to embark on a journey unlike any other. This is not a journey of urgency or excitement, but one of profound gentleness. Wandering through the quiet evenings of history itself. Close your eyes if you wish, or let them rest softly open, unfocused, gazing at nothing in particular. Feel the weight of your body supported completely, every muscle permitted to release, every tension invited to dissolve like sugar in warm water. There is nowhere you need to be, nothing you need to do, no moment, but this one stretching out before you, like an endless, peaceful shore. Throughout human history, across every culture and every age, people have experienced this same sacred transition from wakefulness to sleep. The sun has set billions upon billions of times, and each sunset has been witnessed by human eyes that grew heavy, by minds that gradually quieted, by bodies that surrendered to the night's tender mercy. You are part of this ancient rhythm, this timeless dance between day and night, consciousness and dreams. Tonight, we will visit 7 moments in history, 7 evenings separated by centuries and continents, yet united by the universal human experience of rest. These are not stories of great battles or dramatic turning points, but something far more intimate and true. These are the quiet moments, the forgotten evenings, the peaceful transitions that our ancestors knew as well as we do. In each era, we will slow down time itself, stretching minutes into eternities, allowing you to sink deeper and deeper into relaxation with each breath, with each word, with each gentle image. The art of storytelling for sleep is an ancient one. Our ancestors told tales by firelight, their voices growing softer as the flames died down, their words becoming like a lullaby, a bridge between the waking world and the realm of dreams. Tonight, I am that voice for you, carrying forward a tradition as old as language itself. My purpose is simple and singular, to guide you gently into the most peaceful, restorative sleep you have known. As we journey together, you may notice your breathing becoming slower, deeper, more rhythmic. You may notice thoughts drifting away like leaves on a stream, here for a moment, then gone, of no consequence. You may notice the boundaries between yourself and the stories beginning to blur, as if you yourself are walking through these ancient evenings, feeling the cool stone beneath your feet, smelling the oil lamps and incense, hearing the distant sounds of historical worlds settling into night. There is no wrong way to experience these stories. If you drift off before we finish, that is perfect. If you hear every word with crystal clarity, that too is perfect. If you move in and out of sleep like waves lapping at a shore, returning to consciousness only to slip away again, that is exactly as it should be. This journey is yours, and it will unfold precisely as it needs to. Let us begin our wandering through time's most peaceful moments. Let us visit the evenings that history forgot to record, the quiet hours that left no mark on the grand narrative of human events, yet contained within them everything that matters: rest, peace, the gentle closing of a day, and the promise of renewal that sleep always brings. Breathe deeply now. Feel yourself becoming lighter, as if you could float through time itself, unburdened by the weight of the present moment, free to drift wherever these words might carry you. The past is not behind us, but all around us, accessible in the space between thoughts, in the pause between breaths, in the soft darkness behind closed eyes. We begin our journey in the ancient world, in a place where knowledge itself was gathered and cherished, where the greatest minds of antiquity came to learn and wonder. The sun is setting over the Mediterranean, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, and we find ourselves approaching the greatest library the ancient world had ever known. Section 2. The Library of Alexandria. A Scholar's Evening, 48 BCE. The evening air carries the scent of papyrus and salt water, blending together in a perfume that belongs to this place and no other. You are walking beside a man named Theon, a scribe in the great library of Alexandria, as he makes his way through the final hour of daylight. His sandals make soft sounds against the limestone floors, polished smooth by centuries of scholarly footsteps. The light slanting through the high windows has turned golden, thick and honeyed, catching the dust motes that dance in the air like tiny spirits celebrating the day's end. Theon has been copying manuscripts all day, his fingers stained with ink the color of midnight, his eyes tired but satisfied. He is perhaps 50 years old, his beard streaked with gray, his hands steady from decades of careful work. He carries with him a wooden stylus and a small wax tablet, though he has no intention of using them. The habit of carrying the tools of his trade has become as natural as breathing, as unconscious as the beating of his heart. The library at this hour is a place of profound tranquility. The great reading rooms, which earlier buzzed with scholarly debate and the rustling of scrolls, have grown quiet. A few dedicated students remain, bent over their texts in pools of lamplight, but most have departed for their evening meals, their homes, their own rituals of rest. Theon moves among the shelves like a man walking through a forest he has known since childhood, his feet finding their way without conscious thought. He pauses at a particular shelf, running his fingers along the wooden edge, feeling the slight indentations worn by countless hands before. Here are housed the works of Euclid, the great geometer whose elements have provided structure to the universe itself. Theon has copied these texts so many times that he could recite them from memory, but he never grows tired of their elegant proofs, their perfect logic. Mathematics, he thinks, is a kind of prayer, a way of touching the divine order that underlies all things. The library's chief librarian, an elderly man named Apollonius, appears from between two towering shelves. He moves slowly, leaning on a staff of olive wood, his thin white hair catching the last rays of sunlight. Like a halo, he nods to Theon, a gesture of greeting and farewell combined, for they both know that the day's work is done. There is no need for words between them. They have shared this ritual hundreds of times, this peaceful closing of another day devoted to the preservation of human knowledge. Theon makes his way to the western wing of the library, where the windows look out over the harbor. From here, he can see the Pharos lighthouse, beginning to glow in the gathering dusk, its fire being lit by attendants who are invisible at this distance. The lighthouse seems to float between sea and sky, a beacon marking the boundary between the known world and the vast mysteries beyond. Ships are returning to port, their sails catching the last light, transformed into shapes of rose and gold. He thinks about the manuscripts that have passed through his hands today. A treatise on medicine by Hippocrates, describing herbs and their properties, the careful balance of humors in the human body. A collection of poetry from Sappho, fragments of love and longing, preserved on papyrus that crumbles a little more with each unrolling. A mathematical text from Babylon, written in cuneiform that had to be translated twice before reaching Greek. Each scroll is a voice from the past, a mind reaching across time to speak to the future. And he, Theon, is merely the conduit, the careful hand that ensures these voices will not be lost to silence. He removes his sandals, feeling the smooth floor beneath his bare feet. The floor still holds a hint of the day's warmth, released slowly into the cooling evening air. He loosens his tunic, lies down on the couch, adjusts the blanket over his legs. Through the small window set high in the wall, he can see a rectangle of darkening sky, stars beginning to appear like scattered seeds of light. Theon closes his eyes and listens to the sounds of the library at night. Somewhere distant, a scroll is being carefully rolled, the papyrus, making a soft whisper. Footsteps echo in a far corridor, then fade to silence. A breeze moves through the building, carrying with it the scent of the sea, of distant lands, of all the knowledge contained within these walls. He thinks of all the scribes who have come before him, all who will come after, an endless chain of devoted hands preserving the light of learning through the ages. His breathing slows, deepens. He feels himself drifting like a ship losing sight of shore, moving into open waters where dreams and memory blend. Together, he dreams he is copying a text that has not yet been written, translating words from a language that does not yet exist, preserving knowledge for people who will not be born for 2,000 years. The dream is peaceful, purposeful. His hand moves across the page in steady strokes, and with each stroke, he sinks deeper into sleep, into rest, into the timeless quiet that embraces all scholars, all seekers, all those who have devoted their lives to preserving the light of human understanding against the gathering dark. The lamp in his room burns lower, the flame growing smaller, casting gentler shadows. Outside, the city of Alexandria settles into night, a great organism of stone and flesh finding its rest. The library stands, silent, guardian of memories, keeper of voices, a sanctuary of knowledge, where even sleep becomes a kind of learning, a way of absorbing wisdom, through the gentle osmosis of dreams. Section 3. A medieval monastery, Compline and Silence, 1147 CE. The stone walls of the monastery are thick with centuries, gray and massive, built to last until the end of the world. Evening is falling over the French countryside, and the bell tower releases its final call of the day, the sound of bronze on bronze echoing across the valley, rolling over fields and forest, marking the transition from labor to prayer, from prayer to silence, from silence to sleep. Brother Thomas walks slowly along the cloister, his brown woolen habit brushing against his ankles, his rope belt swaying with each step. He is a man of middle years, his tonsured head showing the first touches of gray, his hands rough from work in the scriptorium and the gardens. His face is peaceful, lined with the gentle creases that come from years of rising before dawn, of bending over manuscripts in candlelight, of singing the offices that structure each day like pearls on a string. The cloister surrounds a square garden where herbs grow in neat rows: lavender and rosemary, sage and thyme, chamomile and fennel. The plants are shadowy now, losing their colors to the dusk, but their scents remain strong, released by the cooling air. Brother Thomas breathes deeply, taking in these fragrances that have become for him the very smell of prayer, of devotion, of a life lived in simplicity and purpose. His fellow monks are gathering in the chapter house for Compline, the final office of the day, the prayers that will usher them into the great silence. They move like shadows themselves, these men who have chosen to turn away from the world's noise and complexity, seeking instead the narrow path of contemplation and service. Some are young, their faces still smooth and unmarked by time. Others are ancient, bent with decades of labor and devotion, their steps slow but steady. All move with the same measured pace, the same quiet dignity. The chapter house is lit by candles placed in iron sconces along the walls. The light is warm and wavering, creating an atmosphere both intimate and sacred. The room smells of beeswax and stone, of wool and the faint mustiness of olden books. The monks take their places on wooden benches worn smooth by generations of bodies, their hands folded, their eyes cast down in the posture of humility they have practiced for so long that it has become their natural state. The abbot, Father Benedict, stands at the front of the assembly. He is an old man, his face deeply lined, his eyes bright with a mixture of intelligence and compassion. He has guided this community for 30 years, through seasons of plenty and scarcity, through political upheaval and peaceful times. His voice, when he begins to chant, is surprisingly strong, resonating in the stone chamber like the voice of the building itself. Fratres, sobriae stot et vigilate, he intones. Brothers, be sober and watch. The ancient words in Latin, the language of prayer and scholarship, the language that connects this small monastery to every monastery throughout Christendom, to Rome itself, to a tradition that stretches back through the centuries like a golden thread. The Monks respond in unison, their voices blending into a single sound, a harmonic whole that is greater than any individual voice. Brother Thomas closes his eyes and lets the words wash over him. He has sung these prayers thousands of times, yet they never grow stale or empty. Each night, they carry him from the concerns of the day into the peace of the coming night, from the multiplicity of tasks and thoughts into a unity of purpose and being. The Compline service is brief, perhaps 20 minutes, but it feels both longer and shorter than that, as if time itself becomes fluid in this space, this moment. The monks sing a psalm, then another, their voices rising and falling in the ancient plain chant that has been sung in monasteries for hundreds of years. The melody is simple, almost stark, yet profoundly beautiful in its austerity. It is music designed not to stir the emotions, but to still them, to create a space of inner quietness where the soul can rest. Father Benedict sprinkles holy water over the assembly, the droplets catching the candlelight as they fall. Brother Thomas feels a drop land on his forehead, cool and clean, and he thinks of baptism, of purification, of the washing away of the day's small failures and distractions. Each day is a kind of death and rebirth, he reflects. Each night we die to ourselves, and each morning we are granted the grace of beginning again. The service concludes with the singing of the Salve Regina, the beautiful hymn to Mary. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. The words are tender, almost heartbreaking in their simplicity. Brother Thomas thinks of his own mother, long dead, now buried in a village churchyard 2 days' walk from this place. He thinks of all mothers, all those who have nurtured and protected, and he feels a wave of gratitude so profound that tears prick his eyes. Father Benedict makes the sign of the cross over the assembly. Benedicamus Domino, he says, let us bless the Lord. Deo gratias, the monks respond, thanks be to God. And with those words, the great silence begins. The monks rise from their benches and begin to file out of the chapter house, still moving in that measured, unhurried way. No one speaks. No one will speak now until after the first prayers of the morning hours. Away. The silence is not empty but full, pregnant with meaning. A silence that is itself a kind of prayer. Brother Thomas walks toward the dormitory, his feet knowing the way even in the dim light. The dormitory is a long room lined with simple beds, each consisting of a straw mattress on a wooden frame, a wool blanket, a pillow stuffed with herbs. The room is cold, for it is autumn now, and the stone walls hold no warmth. But the cold is not unpleasant. It is clean and sharp, invigorating in a way that makes the warmth of the blanket all the more precious. He kneels beside his bed for a moment of private prayer, his lips moving. Silently, he prays for his brothers, for the people in the villages nearby, for travelers on the roads, for all souls in need of comfort or guidance. He prays in gratitude for the day just past, for the bread he ate, for the work his hands accomplished, for the beauty of the natural world that surrounds this place. Rising, he removes his outer habit, folds it carefully, places it at the foot of his bed. He lies down in his simple tunic, pulls the rough blanket over his body. The straw mattress rustles slightly, settling under his weight. Through the narrow window, he can see a slice of night sky, stars brilliant in the clear autumn air. He recognizes Cassiopeia, the queen seated on her throne, and the great square of Pegasus. The same stars that shone on the ancient world, on Alexandria, on Athens, on Jerusalem. The same stars that will shine long after he is dust, after this monastery is ruins, after everything he knows has passed away into memory and legend. He thinks about the manuscript he was illuminating today, a page from the Gospel of Luke. He had spent hours on a single letter, a capital L, decorated with intertwining vines and tiny flowers painted in brilliant blues and reds and golds. The work requires absolute concentration, absolute stillness of hand and mind. It is a form of prayer, he believes, this dedication of his skill and attention to the glory of God's Word. In the bed to his left, Brother Paul is already breathing deeply, asleep. To his right, old Brother Anselm shifts position, his joints creaking. Audibly, all around the dormitory, the sounds of men settling into sleep, the rustle of straw, the quiet exhalation of breath, the occasional soft cough. They are a family, these men, bound together not by blood but by something deeper, a shared commitment to a life of poverty, chastity, obedience, and prayer. Brother Thomas feels his body relaxing, muscle by muscle. The tension in his shoulders from bending over his work all day begins to release. His breathing slows, falling into rhythm with the breathing of his brothers. Around him, he is part of a larger organism now, a collective body, breathing together, resting together, held in the embrace of this ancient routine that has sustained thousands of men for hundreds of years. He drifts into that space between waking and sleeping, where thoughts become like dreams, fragmentary and strange. He sees the manuscript page he was working on, but now the vines are growing, unfurling leaves, blooming with real flowers. He walks through a garden that is somehow both the Garden of Eden and the cloister garden outside, and the air is full of singing, though he cannot tell if it is birds or angels or the voices of his brothers at prayer. The monastery settles into deep night. In the chapel, a single candle burns. Before the altar, the eternal light that is never extinguished, symbol of God's constant presence. In the infirmary, Brother Physician sits with an elderly monk who is dying, holding his hand, praying the prayers for the departing soul. In the kitchen, the banked fire glows under its cover of ash, ready to be awakened in the morning. And in the dormitory, 30 men sleep the sleep of the just, their souls rising like incense toward heaven while their bodies rest, gathering strength for another day of labor and prayer, another turning of the eternal wheel of hours that gives structure and meaning to their lives. Section 4, Edo period Japan, Tea Master's Twilight, 1680 CE. The evening cicadas have fallen silent, their summer song complete for another day. In their place, a profound quietness settles over the garden in Kyoto, a silence so deep that the sound of a single bamboo leaf brushing against its neighbor seems loud and significant. The light is fading quickly now, the way it does in late summer, the sky transforming from blue to violet to a deep indigo that reminds Sohan, the tea master, of the glaze on his favorite tea bowl. Sohan is 70 years old, his back slightly bent, his face deeply lined, with the marks of a lifetime spent in contemplation and practice. He wears a simple kimono of gray silk, faded from many washings, the color of rain clouds or aged stone. His feet are bare as he walks the stone path through his garden, feeling each carefully placed stepping stone under his soles, conscious of the coolness of the rock, the slight variations in texture and height. The garden is small, as tea gardens must be, designed not to impress with grandeur but to turn the mind inward, to create a sense of peaceful seclusion. Moss grows thick and soft between the stones. A stone water basin, carved from a single piece of granite, sits low to the ground, its surface dark with age. A single maple tree, its leaves already showing hints of autumn red, spreads its branches over one corner of the space. Everything here has been placed with intention, with awareness, with the understanding that every element contributes to the whole. Sohan pauses at the water basin, dips his hands into the cool water that a student filled earlier in the afternoon. He brings the water to his lips, drinks a little, lets the coolness spread through his mouth and throat. The water tastes of stone and sky, of purity and emptiness. He thinks, as he often does, of the great tea masters who came before him. Rikyu, who perfected the way of tea and died for his principles. Oribe, whose tea bowls were deliberately imperfect, celebrating the beauty of asymmetry and accident. He is part of a lineage, a transmission of understanding that passes from teacher to student like a flame passed from candle to candle. The tea house stands at the end of the path, a small structure with walls of woven bamboo and rice paper screens. It is called the Hut of No Mind, a name Sohan chose many years ago to reflect the purpose of the space. Here, the normal concerns of the world are left outside. Here, there is only this moment, this bowl of tea, this encounter between host and guest, this brief perfection that exists and then dissolves like foam on water. Sohan enters through the low door, having to bow deeply to pass through, a gesture that reminds all who enter of the humility required for the tea ceremony. Inside, the space is dim and cool, lit only by the fading daylight that filters through the paper screens. The walls are bare, except for a scroll hanging in the alcove, calligraphy brushed in. Confident black strokes, mountain spring. The characters evoke the source of water, the origin of purity, the way natural things arise, spontaneously without effort or strain. In the center of the room, a square hearth is cut into the floor. Although it is summer and no fire burns there now, Sohan can see in his mind's eye the winter ceremonies, the charcoal glowing red, the iron kettle, singing its song of wind and water, steam rising into the cold air. The hearth is the heart of the tea room, the source of warmth and transformation. In winter, guests gather around it like pilgrims around a sacred fire, finding not just physical warmth but spiritual nourishment. Sohan kneels in the formal size of position, his knees on the tatama mat, his back straight but not rigid. He has knelt in this position thousands of times, tens of thousands of times, until it has become as natural as standing. The pain that used to come in his knees and ankles has long since transmuted into something else, not exactly comfort, but a kind of acceptance, a recognition that the body's discomfort is temporary and ultimately unimportant compared to the mind's capacity for presence and attention. He thinks about the ceremony he performed this afternoon for a feudal lord and his retinue. It had been a formal occasion, requiring the most precise movements, the most perfect etiquette, every gesture choreographed, every moment planned, yet somehow, paradoxically, completely spontaneous and alive. This is the mystery of the tea ceremony, Sohan reflects. Through the most rigorous form, the most exacting discipline, one finds true freedom. Through complete control, one achieves complete naturalness. The Lord had been pleased, had complimented Sohan on the tea, on the flower arrangement, on the hanging scroll. But Sohan had sensed something was missing, some quality of genuine connection, of what Rikyū called heart-to-heart communication. The Lord was distracted, his mind on political matters, on the intrigues of the shogun's court. He went through the motions of appreciating the tea, but he did not truly taste it. He looked at the flower, but he did not truly see it. This saddens Sohan, though he accepts it as inevitable. Not everyone can be brought fully into the moment, into the complete awareness that the tea ceremony offers. Some people carry their worries and ambitions with them everywhere, unable to set them down even for the brief duration of a bowl of tea. But that is not his concern. His responsibility is simply to offer the ceremony with complete sincerity, with wholehearted dedication, and to accept whatever response comes without attachment or judgment. Now, in the quiet of evening, he performs a private ceremony for himself, alone, not a formal ceremony with all the traditional elements, but something simpler, more intimate. He prepares matcha in a worn tea bowl that has been his companion for 40 years, its glaze crazed with fine lines, its shape settling comfortably into his palms like an old friend's hand. The whisking of the tea is a meditation in itself. The bamboo whisk moves in practiced circles, back and forth, creating froth, incorporating air into the bitter green liquid. The sound is soft, rhythmic, like rain on leaves. Sohan focuses completely on this simple action, on the feel of the whisk handle, on the resistance of the tea, on the gradual transformation from powder and water into something unified and complete. He raises the bowl to his lips, turns it twice in the prescribed manner, drinks. The tea is bitter and sweet at once, grassy and profound. It fills his mouth, his throat, spreads warmth through his chest. He drinks, slowly, completely present to each sip, each sensation. When the bowl is empty, he regards it for a long moment, appreciating the way the traces of tea cling to the interior, the way the light catches the curves of the glaze. He rinses the bowl, wipes it with a silk cloth, sets it aside. These simple actions of cleaning and putting away are as important as the ceremony itself. Nothing is wasted, nothing is casual. Each gesture carries meaning, reflects awareness, embodies the principle that every moment of life can be sacred if approached with the right spirit. Sohan rises from his knees, his joints protesting slightly, and walks to the doorway. The garden is now fully dark, though a thin crescent moon has appeared above the maple tree, hanging in the sky like a silver comma. He stands for a long time, looking out at the shapes of the garden, merging with shadow, the boundaries between things dissolving in the darkness. He thinks about the nature of darkness and light, how they define each other, how neither can exist without the other. The tea ceremony, he has come to understand, is about this relationship, about the way form and emptiness interpenetrate, the way stillness and movement dance together, the way silence gives meaning to sound. Returning to his living quarters, a simple room adjacent to the tea house, Sohan prepares for sleep. He spreads his futon on the tatami, smoothing the covers with careful attention. He removes his kimono, folds it precisely, places it beside the futon. He lies down, pulling a light quilt over his body, feeling the firmness of the mat beneath him, a firmness that he has come to prefer over any softness. Through the open screen, he can hear the first night insects beginning their songs. A frog in the garden pond adds its voice, a single rhythmic note, repeated at intervals. The sounds do not disturb him, but rather deepen the sense of peace, of being part of the natural world, of belonging to something larger than his individual existence. Sohan closes his eyes and brings his attention to his breathing. In, out. The breath that has sustained him for 70 years, that will sustain him for however many years remain. He does not think about death, though he knows it cannot be far away now. He does not fear it. Death, like everything else, is simply another moment to be met with awareness and acceptance. He thinks of a haiku by Basho, the great poet. This dewdrop world, yet. Within those drops, such quarreling. The impermanence of all things. The briefness of life, and yet the way humans struggle and grasp as if life would last forever. The tea ceremony teaches a different way to embrace impermanence, to find beauty in transience, to understand that because things are fleeting, they are precious. His breathing deepens, slows. His consciousness begins to float, drifting, like a leaf on water. He is the leaf, he is the water, he is the watching of the leaf and the water. The boundaries of self dissolve. There is just this breath, darkness, the distant sound of insects, the coolness of the night air on his face. Sohan sleeps, and his sleep is like the practice of zazen, seated meditation. Even in dreams, some part of him remains aware, witnessing, present. He dreams of whisking tea in an infinite space, of a bowl that contains the entire universe, of drinking deeply from a cup that never empties. The dreams are not separate from waking life, but a continuation of it, another expression of the same underlying reality. In the tea house, the scroll hangs in darkness, its characters invisible, but still present, still emanating meaning. Mountain spring, the source that never runs dry, the original nature that is always fresh, always new, always offering itself without reservation or hesitation. This is what Sohan has spent his life trying to embody, to express, through the simple acts of whisking tea, offering a bowl, cleaning the utensils. Not dramatic wisdom, not flashy enlightenment, but something quiet and deep and eternally reliable, like water emerging from stone. Section 5, Victorian England, A Naturalist's Notebook, 1873 CE. Rain falls against the windows of the study, not heavily, but with a steady persistence that has continued since mid-afternoon. The sound is soporific, rhythmic, like a lullaby composed by the weather itself. Dr. Edmund Ashford sits in his leather chair beside the fireplace, a notebook open on his lap, spectacles perched on his nose, a wool blanket tucked around his legs against the autumn chill. He is 78 years old, white-haired and white-bearded, his face weathered by decades of fieldwork, his hands spotted with age but still steady enough to hold a pen. The study is a sanctuary of accumulated learning, walls lined floor to ceiling with books, specimens arranged on shelves and tables, a large oak desk covered with papers and journals, and the tools of natural observation, magnifying glasses, specimen boxes, carefully labeled jars containing seeds and insects and fragments of rock. The room smells of leather and paper, pipe tobacco and tea, the mustiness of old collections, and the fresher scent of plants brought in from the greenhouse. It is the smell of a life devoted to careful observation, to patient documentation, to the gradual accumulation of understanding about the natural world. A fire burns low in the grate, more for comfort than warmth, its flames casting flickering shadows across the room. On the mantelpiece, a clock ticks with mechanical regularity, marking the passage of time with a sound that Dr. Ashford finds reassuring rather than oppressive. He has made his peace with time, with the inevitability of aging, with the knowledge that his life's work will soon pass into the hands of younger scientists who will build upon his foundations, correct his errors, extend his observations into realms he cannot imagine. He pages through the notebook, reviewing his entries from the day. He had spent the morning in his greenhouse, observing the development of orchid seedlings he had been cultivating from specimens collected during his travels in South America 40 years ago. The greenhouse is his Eden, a space where he can maintain the tropical conditions these delicate plants require: warmth, humidity, filtered light. He visits them every day, noting the smallest changes, the emergence of a new leaf, the slight shift in color that indicates a plant's health or distress. This afternoon, despite the rain, he had walked down to the pond at the edge of his property, wrapped in his mackintosh, to observe the behavior of moorhens. He has been watching these birds for years, fascinated by their parenting behavior, the way both male and female participate in building the nest, incubating the eggs, feeding the young. In his notebook, he has sketched the nest, counted the eggs, noted the distribution of duties between the parents. Such simple creatures, he thinks, yet their behavior reveals such complexity, such evident care and cooperation. The rain intensifies for a moment, drumming harder against the windows, then subsides again to its earlier steady rhythm. Dr. Ashford sets down his notebook and removes his spectacles, rubbing the bridge of his nose, where they have left their familiar indentations. His eyes are tired, not just from today's reading and writing, but from a lifetime of close observation, of peering through microscopes at pollen grains and insect wings, of examining tiny variations in leaf structure and flower formation. He thinks about Charles Darwin, whom he met once, briefly, at a scientific meeting in London 30 years ago. Darwin had been kind to him, encouraging, had complimented him on a paper he had written about the pollination strategies of native British orchids. Dr. Ashford had been terrified and thrilled in equal measure, standing in the presence of the great man whose work had revolutionized biology, who had shown that all living things were connected through the branching tree of descent with modification. Dr. Ashford's own contribution to science has been much humbler than Darwin's, of course. He has published papers in respectable journals, contributed observations and specimens to various learned societies, mentored a few young naturalists. He has not proposed any grand theories or made any dramatic discoveries, but he has been thorough, meticulous, honest in his observations. He has added his small portion to the great edifice of scientific knowledge, and that, he feels, is enough. Not everyone can be Darwin. Most scientists are workers in the vineyard, gathering facts, testing hypotheses, slowly building the foundation upon which the rare genius can construct his theories. A knock at the study door, soft and deferential. "Come in," Dr. Ashford calls, his voice still strong despite his years. Mrs. Henderson, his housekeeper for the past 20 years, enters with a tea tray. She is a woman of 60, gray-haired and efficient, with a maternal concern for the elderly scholar who often forgets to eat or rest in his absorption with his work. On the tray is a pot of Darjeeling tea, a cup and saucer of fine porcelain painted with botanical illustrations, a small plate with 2 digestive biscuits. "I thought you might like some tea before retiring, sir," she says, setting the tray on a small table beside his chair. "It's a cold evening, and you were out in the rain earlier." "Thank you, Mrs. Henderson. Most thoughtful." He smiles at her, genuine warmth in his expression. She has become part of his life, as much a fixture as his books and specimens, her regular routines providing structure to his days. She pours the tea for him, adds a small amount of milk just as he likes it, stirs it gently. The ritual is comforting, familiar. "Will there be anything else, sir?" "No, thank you. I shall retire soon myself. Good night, Mrs. Henderson." "Good night, Dr. Ashford. Sleep well." She leaves quietly, closing the door behind her with barely a sound. Dr. Ashford sips his tea, holding the cup with both hands, feeling its warmth spread through his fingers. The tea is excellent, fragrant, and complex, tasting faintly of the mountains where it grew. He thinks about the plants that produce these leaves, growing in distant India on terraced hillsides, tended by workers whose lives are completely unknown. To him, the interconnectedness of things never ceases to amaze him. His cup of tea connects him to Indian soil, to monsoon rains, to the labor of harvesting hands, to ships crossing oceans, to traders and merchants. Nothing exists in isolation. He eats one of the biscuits slowly, tasting the slight sweetness, the grainy texture of the wheat. Even this simple food represents chains of connection, wheat fields, mills, bakers, shops. The whole vast machinery of civilization exists to bring this biscuit to his hand. He finds this thought humbling rather than alienating. To be part of such intricate networks of mutual dependence is, he thinks, rather beautiful. Finishing his tea, he sets the cup aside and picks up his notebook again. He turns to a fresh page and begins to write, not observations now, but reflections, the kind of personal musings he rarely commits to paper. His handwriting is still clear and precise despite his age, formed in an era when penmanship was considered a mark of education and character. "I have been thinking today," he writes, "about the purpose of a life spent in observation of small things. When I was young, I dreamed of grand discoveries, of having species named after me, of revolutionizing scientific understanding. I have achieved none of these ambitions, and yet I find I am not disappointed. The work itself has been its own reward. The patient watching, the careful recording, the slow accumulation of knowledge. These activities have shaped me into someone I am content to be. I hope that my observations, however minor, will prove useful to those who come after. But even if they do not, even if my notebooks are never read by another soul, the act of observation has been worthwhile. It has taught me to pay attention, to see what is actually there rather than what I expect to see, to respect the irreducible complexity of even the smallest living thing." He pauses, pen hovering above the page. Then he adds, "I am tired now, not unhappily so, but with the pleasant tiredness that comes from a day well spent. Tomorrow I will rise early and visit the greenhouse again. There is always something new to observe, always another question to pursue. But tonight I will sleep, and in sleep, perhaps my mind will wander through the forests and fields I have known, will revisit the plants and animals that have been my companions and teachers. What a privilege it has been, simply to watch and to record, to bear witness to the intricate beauty of the natural world." He closes the notebook, sets it on the table beside his empty teacup. He stands, slowly, feeling the stiffness in his joints, the ache in his lower back. Age has brought these discomforts, but it has also brought a kind of equanimity, an acceptance of limitation that his younger self would have found intolerable. He is no longer ambitious, no longer driven by the need to prove himself. He is simply here, present to each moment, grateful for what he can still observe and appreciate. Dr. Ashford climbs the stairs to his bedroom, moving carefully, one hand on the banister. His bedroom is simple, almost austere, a large bed with a thick feather mattress, a dresser, a washstand with basin and pitcher, a wardrobe containing his limited collection of clothing. On the bedside table is a lamp, a book of poetry by Wordsworth, and a photograph in a silver frame showing his late wife, Eleanor, who died 15 years ago. She is young in the photograph, probably 30, with a gentle smile and kind eyes. He still misses her, though the sharp grief has long since mellowed into a quiet longing, a sense of incompleteness that he has learned to carry. He prepares for bed with the methodical habits of age, washing his face and hands in the cool water from the pitcher, changing into his nightshirt, winding his pocket watch and setting it on the bedside table. The familiar routine is soothing, marking the transition from day to night, from activity to rest. He climbs into bed, the mattress soft and welcoming after the firm chair. In his study, the sheets are cool and crisp, smelling faintly of lavender from the sachets Mrs. Henderson places in the linen cupboard. He adjusts the pillows behind his back, not yet ready to lie flat, and opens the book of Wordsworth's poetry. The poems are familiar to him, read and reread over decades. He finds one of his favorites, lines written a few miles above Tintern Abbey, and begins to read silently, his lips moving slightly with the words. 5 years have passed, 5 summers, with the length slash of 5 long winters. And again I hear slash these waters. The poem speaks of memory and nature, of how landscape shapes consciousness, of the continuity between past and present. Dr. Ashford finds deep resonance in these themes. His own life has been shaped by landscape, by the specific places he has observed. The pond where the moorhens nest, the greenhouse where orchids bloom, the meadows where he has collected botanical specimens. His eyes grow heavy. The words on the page begin to blur. He closes the book, marks his place with a leather bookmark, sets it aside. He extinguishes the lamp, plunging the room into darkness broken only by the faint glow of coals in the fireplace downstairs, visible through the open bedroom door. He lies back, pulling the thick quilts up to his chin. The bed is warm now, from his body heat, cocooning him in comfort. Outside, the rain continues its steady rhythm, sometimes louder, sometimes softer, but always present. It is a sound that fills him with contentment. Rain means the garden will flourish, the pond will be replenished, the earth will drink deep and give forth abundance. Dr. Ashford's breathing slows and deepens. He thinks, as he often does, before sleep, of the natural world settling down for the night. Birds tucked into nests, small mammals in burrows, fish suspended in dark ponds, insects dormant in bark crevices. The whole vast community of living things resting, gathering strength for another day of growth and reproduction and survival. He is part of this community, subject to the same rhythms, the same needs for rest and renewal. He dreams of walking through a forest, sunlight filtering through leaves, birds singing overhead. He stops to examine a flower growing beside the path, kneels down to look more closely. The flower is more intricate than any flower that exists in reality, its petals containing spirals. Within spirals, its colors shifting and blending. As he watches, it begins to open further, revealing depths of complexity that seem infinite. He understands, in the dream logic that transcends waking reason, that he is looking at the structure of reality itself, at the underlying pattern that connects all living things. The revelation fills him with joy and wonder, and he wakes briefly, just for a moment, still, feeling the echo of that joy before sinking back into deeper, dreamless sleep. Section 6. Ancient Rome, baths at twilight, 142 CE. The sun hangs low over Rome, casting long shadows across the marble facades of the baths, turning the Tiber into a ribbon of molten bronze. Marcus Aurelius Cato, Not the famous Cato, but a distant relation who shares the name, walks through the crowded streets toward the baths of Trajan, his sandaled feet finding their way automatically after 20 years of following the same route. He is a retired centurion, 60 years old. His body still strong, but marked by campaigns in Germania and Britannia. A scar across his left forearm from a Saxon blade, a slight limp from an arrow wound in his thigh, fingers on his right hand that no longer bend quite straight after being broken and poorly set during a winter siege. The streets are busy at this hour, the day's work finished, citizens making their way toward various pleasures and necessities. The markets, the taverns, the baths, home. Merchants pack up their stalls, calling out final offers. Children play in the alleys, their voices high and careless. A litter carried by 4 slaves passes, containing some wealthy matron hidden behind curtains, a glimpse of jeweled fingers as she adjusts the fabric. The smell of the city is overwhelming to those not accustomed to it, a mixture of cooking food, unwashed bodies, animal waste, perfumes, incense, but Marcus notices it no more than he notices his own breath. This is Rome, the center of the world, and he has known it his entire life except for those years spent at the empire's edges, standing watch over civilization's boundaries. The baths of Trajan rise before him, an immense complex of marble and brick, steam rising from its various rooms and pools like smoke from sacrificial altars. The building is relatively new, less than 40 years old, built by the emperor after whom it is named. Marcus remembers its dedication, the games and celebrations that lasted for days. He was still in the legions then, home on leave, his body younger and less scarred, his mind full of ambitions for promotion and glory. He pays his entrance fee to the slave at the door, a small copper coin, less than the price of a loaf of bread, and enters into the changing room, the apoditerium. The room is large and loud, full of men of all social classes removing their clothes, storing them in the niches that line the walls. Conversation echoes off the stone surfaces, making it difficult to distinguish individual words. Marcus finds an empty niche, removes his tunic and undergarments, wraps himself in a linen cloth, and proceeds deeper into the complex. He begins, as always, in the exercise yard, the palestra. Although he no longer has the energy for vigorous exercise, he likes to perform some basic movements to warm his muscles and work up a sweat. Other men are wrestling, boxing, playing ball games, their bodies gleaming with oil and perspiration. Marcus picks up a pair of light weights and performs a simple routine, lifts, extensions, rotations. His muscles respond willingly, grateful for the movement after a day of relative inactivity. He has been working on his memoirs lately, sitting for hours in his modest apartment, trying to capture on wax tablets the experiences of his military career before they fade entirely from memory. The writing is difficult, not because he lacks memories, but because he finds it hard to convey the reality of military life to those who have never experienced it, the boredom, the sudden terror, the bonds formed with fellow soldiers, the strange mixture of brutality and camaraderie. After perhaps 20 minutes of exercise, his body warm and beginning to sweat, Marcus moves to the first bathing room, the caldarium, the hot room. The heat hits him immediately, a wave of moist warmth that makes his skin prickle. Steam fills the air, making it difficult to see more than a few feet. The room is heated from below, hot air circulating through channels under the floor and behind the walls, an engineering marvel that never fails to impress him. Men sit or recline on heated marble benches, their bodies relaxing in the warmth. Conversations conducted in low, leisurely tones. Marcus finds a space on a bench and sits, feeling the heat penetrate his muscles, reaching deep into joints that ache with the accumulated wear of hard use. The heat is almost painful at first, but gradually it becomes pleasant, necessary, as if his body is remembering something essential about comfort and ease. He closes his eyes and lets himself simply be, not thinking, not planning, just present to the sensation of heat and steam, The murmur of voices around him, the occasional splash of water as someone ladles it over themselves. Hey, slave approaches with a strigil, offering to scrape the oil and sweat from his body. Marcus nods, and the slave begins the process, drawing the curved bronze blade along his skin with practiced strokes. The sensation is not entirely pleasant, somewhat painful, actually, as the strigil catches on rough patches of skin, but Marcus endures it stoically, as he has endured much worse. The slave works methodically, arms, legs, back, chest. When he is finished, Marcus's skin feels raw and clean, every pore open, every nerve alive. From the caldarium, Marcus moves to the tepidarium, the warm room, where the temperature is more moderate. This is the room where men linger longest, where the real business of the baths takes place. Conversation, gossip, the exchange of news and rumor. Marcus recognizes several faces, men he has come to know over the years of regular bathing. There is Quintus, a former merchant who made his fortune trading grain from Egypt; Titus, a lawyer who handles property disputes; Gaius, a teacher of rhetoric whose sons recently enlisted in the legions. Marcus, Gaius calls out, gesturing him over. Come, sit with us. We were just discussing the situation on the Danube frontier. Marcus joins them, easing himself onto the warm marble bench. What have you heard? He asks, though he knows that whatever news has reached Rome is weeks old, distorted by distance and retelling. The tribes are restless again, Quintus says. More raids across the river. The emperor may need to lead another campaign. Marcus nods, saying nothing. He knows about frontier warfare, knows that restless tribes usually means desperate people pushed by migrations and climate changes, seeking better lands, survival. He has fought them, killed them, seen his friends killed by them. The empire presents these conflicts as battles of civilization against barbarism, but Marcus has seen enough to know that the barbarians are simply men defending what they consider theirs, just as Rome defends what it considers its rightful possessions. Your old legion is stationed there, isn't it? Titus asks. The 14th, yes. Good men. Marcus feels a pang of something, not nostalgia exactly, but a kind of longing for the clarity of military life, where purpose was defined, where each day had structure and meaning. Retirement has been harder than he expected. Too much freedom, too much time to think about questions that have no satisfying answers. The conversation drifts to other topics, politics in the Senate, the upcoming games, the price of olive oil, a scandal involving a senator, and an actress. Marcus participates minimally, contributing in occasional comment, content mainly to listen. The voices wash over him, like the warm air, becoming a kind of music, the eternal human music of people sharing space and time, connecting through words even when words themselves are of little importance. After perhaps an hour in the tepidarium, Marcus moves to the final room, the frigidarium, the cold plunge. The shock of cold water after the extended heat is bracing, almost violent, but he has learned to embrace it. He descends the steps into the pool, immersing himself completely, feeling his skin tighten, his blood rushing, his heart accelerating. It is like being reborn, emerging gasping into the air, water streaming from his body, every nerve singing with life. He dries himself with a rough linen towel, dresses in his tunic, and steps out into the evening. The sun has set while he was inside, and the sky is deep purple, stars beginning to appear. The streets are lit by torches and oil lamps, creating islands of light in the gathering darkness. The city has transformed, becoming mysterious, slightly dangerous. Marcus walks carefully, alert for thieves who work under cover of darkness, though his military bearing and evident poverty make him an unlikely target. His apartment is in the Subura, a crowded, noisy district of Rome where the poor and the working class live. He climbs the stairs to his third-floor room, his thighs protesting the effort after the baths. The room is small, barely large enough for a bed, a table, a chest, containing his few possessions. But it is his, and the rent is manageable on his pension. A clay lamp burns on the table, left by his neighbor who knows Marcus's habits and lights it for him as a kindness. Marcus lies down on his bed, still feeling the pleasant exhaustion from the heat and exercise of the baths. Through the thin walls, he can hear his neighbors, a couple arguing, a baby crying, someone singing a drinking song. The sounds of human life, close-packed and messy and real. He remembers nights in military camps, sleeping in leather tents with 11 other men, their snores and breathing creating a cocoon of sound. He remembers nights under open sky in Germania, frost forming on his blanket, the weight of his armor beside him, the watchword passing between sentries. He is glad those days are over, and yet some part of him misses them, misses the simplicity of belonging to something larger than himself, of having a clear role, a defined purpose. Here in Rome, he is just another old soldier, one of thousands, his service noted but not particularly valued, his knowledge and experience irrelevant in a city that looks always forward, always to the next conquest, the next spectacle, the next sensation. But these are thoughts for daylight, for his waking hours spent writing his memoirs. Tonight, he will simply sleep, his body clean and tired, his mind drifting into the emptiness that precedes dreams. He thinks of the baths, of the heat penetrating his bones, of the cold shock of the plunge pool, of the voices of men talking about nothing important in the tepidarium. These small rituals, repeated day after day, are what make a life bearable, what connect us to each other and to ourselves. Marcus closes his eyes, and sleep comes quickly, rolling over him like a warm sea. He dreams of marching, as he often does, the rhythmic sound of hobnailed boots on stone roads, the weight of his pack familiar and almost comforting. In the dream, he is young again, his body strong, his future unwritten. The legion stretches before him and behind him, a serpent of men and metal winding through countryside that could be anywhere in the empire, everywhere and nowhere. The dream is neither happy nor sad, but somehow peaceful, a return to a time when he knew who he was and what was expected of him. In the streets outside, Rome continues its nightly existence, never fully sleeping, always alive with commerce and crime, with love and violence, with the thousand human dramas that play out in shadow and torchlight. But in his small room, Marcus sleeps the sleep of the just, his body at rest, his mind wandering through memories and dreams, at peace with the life he has lived, ready, when the time comes, for the life he will leave behind. Section 7, Renaissance Florence, Artist Studio at dusk, 1492 CE. The bells of Santa Maria del Fiore toll the hour of vespers, their bronze voices rolling across the red-tiled roofs of Florence, echoing off the stone facades of palaces and churches, marking another turning of the day toward night. In a narrow street in the Altrano district, in a studio on the second floor of a building that leans slightly, as if tired from centuries of standing, a young man named Paolo rinses brushes in a terracotta bowl of water, watching the pigments swirl and blend, reds from ground cinnabar, blues from powdered lapis lazuli brought all the way from Afghanistan, yellows from lead tin compounds, greens from malachite. The water turns cloudy with color, a muddy rainbow that reminds Paolo of the great fresco cycles he has been privileged to assist with, where hundreds of square meters of wet plaster receive the miracle of painted form, where biblical stories and classical myths come alive under the hands of masters. He is 22 years old, an apprentice in the studio of a painter of modest but growing reputation, and he has been working since dawn on a commission for an altarpiece showing the Annunciation, the angel Gabriel informing Mary of her divine pregnancy. His master, Maestro Benedetto, sits across the studio in his carved wooden chair, a cup of wine beside him, examining the day's work with critical eyes. He is 60, his hair still mostly dark but shot through with silver, his face lined with decades of squinting at canvas and panel, of breathing paint fumes and varnish, of the concentration required to translate vision into visible form. His hands, stained with a lifetime of pigments, rest calmly on the arms of the chair, no longer holding brush or maul stick, his working day complete. The studio is on the second floor to capture better light, its windows facing north to provide steady illumination without the harsh direct sunlight that would make colors difficult to judge. Now, as evening comes on, those windows are filled with the soft golden light, characteristic of Tuscan twilight, the air itself seeming to glow as if infused with honey. Swallows dart past the windows, hunting insects, their flight fast and joyful, their cries high and sharp. The studio smells of linseed oil and turpentine, of the egg tempera that has been mixed today, of the wooden panels prepared with gesso, of the rabbit skin glue used in preparing canvases. These smells have become as natural to Paolo as breathing, the scent of his vocation, his calling. He cannot imagine doing anything else, cannot imagine a life not devoted to the creation of beauty, to the capturing of light and shadow, to the endless challenge of making a flat surface appear to have depth and volume in life. The walls of the studio are covered with drawings, studies of hands and feet, faces in various expressions, drapery studies showing how fabric falls and folds, anatomical sketches of muscles and bones learned from careful observation of corpses, a practice technically forbidden by the church but unofficially tolerated when done discreetly. There are also drawings copied from ancient Roman sculptures, from Greek vases, from the works of earlier masters. To learn to paint, one must first learn to see, and to see, one must practice endlessly, training the hand to follow the eye, training the eye to perceive truly. Come here, Paolo, Maestro Benedetto says, his voice gentle but commanding. Look at the angel's wing. What do you see? Paolo approaches the altarpiece, which stands on an easel in the center of the studio. He has been working on this wing for 2 days, carefully, building up layers of color, blending them while wet to create the iridescent quality of feathers. He studies his work, trying to see it as his master sees it, with critical detachment rather than the pride of creation. The colors are good, he says hesitantly. The blue and the gold, they shimmer as feathers should. Yes, the colors are good, but look at the structure. The feathers, do they all grow from the same center? Do they follow the anatomy of a wing? Paolo looks more carefully, and with his master's words, he suddenly sees the problem. The feathers are beautiful individually, but they do not cohere into a convincing whole. They float on the surface of the panel, rather than suggesting the actual structure of a wing, the way feathers layer and overlap, the way they serve the function of flight. I see it now, Maestro. Tomorrow I will repaint this section, following the anatomy more carefully. Benedetto nods, satisfied. Good. Always remember, beauty without truth is mere decoration. We are not decorators, but seekers of truth. The angel's wing must be beautiful, yes, but it must also be true to the logic of creation. God is the supreme artist, and nature is his masterwork. When we study nature carefully, when we understand its structures and principles, we honor the Creator and come closer to divine truth in our own work. This is a philosophy Paolo has heard many times, but it never grows stale. The idea that painting is a spiritual practice, a way of understanding and honoring creation, fills him with a sense of purpose beyond mere craft. He is not simply making pretty pictures for wealthy patrons, though that is certainly part of his work. He is participating in a sacred enterprise, using his God-given talents to reveal the beauty and order that underlies all existence. Clean your brushes thoroughly, Benedetto says, returning to his wine. Dried paint will ruin them, and good brushes are expensive. Treat your tools with respect, for they are extensions of your hand, and your hand is an instrument of your will, which serves your vision, which, if you are fortunate and diligent, serves truth itself. Paolo returns to his cleaning, taking extra care now, working the bristles between his fingers to remove every trace of paint. The brushes are made of various materials, expensive ones of sable hair for fine detail work, cheaper ones of hog bristle for broader strokes, some of squirrel hair for very delicate glazes. Each has its purpose, its particular character. Paolo has come to know them individually, as a shepherd knows his sheep. The light continues to fade, and Benedetto's apprentice lights candles around the studio, creating pools of warm illumination. The candlelight changes everything, making the colors richer but less true. Work cannot continue in this light, for what appears correct by candlelight may look wrong in daylight. The evening is for cleaning, for preparation, for rest and conversation, not for creation. Benedetto's wife, Madonna Francesca, appears at the studio door with a plate of bread, cheese, and olives. She is a small woman, perhaps 50, her face pleasant and motherly, her hands perpetually busy with the management of the household. She has learned not to disturb the studio during working hours, but knows that evening is a time when her presence is welcome. You must eat something before you go home, Paolo, she says, setting the plate on a table cleared of paint and brushes. Your mother would scold me if I sent you back hungry. Paolo smiles gratefully and takes some bread and cheese. He has been too absorbed in his work to notice hunger, but now that food is before him, he realizes he is famished. The bread is coarse but fresh, the cheese sharp and satisfying, the olives salty and rich. He eats standing up, as he has done most things today, his legs tired from hours of standing at the easel. Benedetto rises from his chair with a slight groan, his joints stiff from sitting. He walks to the window and looks out at Florence spreading below, the city he has lived in all his life, the city that has nurtured his art and given him purpose. The Duomo dominates the skyline, Brunelleschi's magnificent dome rising against the darkening sky, a triumph of engineering and faith. Lights are beginning to appear in windows throughout the city, hundreds of them, thousands each, representing a household settling into evening, families gathering for meals, children being put to bed, lovers meeting in secret, merchants counting their day's profits, priests saying their prayers. It is a beautiful city, Benedetto says, almost to himself. Sometimes I think I spend so much time trying to capture beauty on panel that I forget to simply look at it, to receive it without the need to reproduce it. Paolo joins him at the window, and together they stand in companionable silence, watching the city's transformation from day to night. This is one of the gifts of apprenticeship that Paolo had not anticipated, these moments of shared observation, of quiet companionship with a man he respects and has come to love as a second father. Benedetto has taught him not just techniques of painting, but ways of seeing, ways of being in the world with attention and gratitude. Go home now, Benedetto says finally. Your mother will be expecting you. Tomorrow we will continue. There is always tomorrow, until there is not, and then our work passes to others who will carry it forward. This is the way of things, the great chain of masters and apprentices stretching back to Giotto and beyond, forward into a future we cannot imagine. Paolo gathers his things, bids goodnight to his master and Madonna Francesca, and descends the narrow stairs to the street. The evening air is cool and fresh after the enclosed atmosphere of the studio, carrying the smell of wood smoke from cooking fires, of the Arno River flowing nearby, of the flowers that Florentines keep in their window boxes even. As autumn approaches, he walks through streets that are familiar to him from childhood, past the church where he was baptized, past the market square where his mother shops, past the workshop of his uncle who is a goldsmith. The city is a warren of narrow streets and sudden piazzas, of tall buildings that lean toward each other overhead, creating corridors of shadow even in daylight. At night, the streets are lit by lanterns hung outside doors, by torches carried by servants escorting their masters, by moonlight. When the moon is bright enough to penetrate the narrow spaces between buildings, Paolo's family lives above his father's shop. His father is a wool merchant, a member of the powerful Arte della Lana Guild that has made Florence wealthy. The family's prosperity has allowed Paolo to pursue painting, rather than entering the family business, though his father still harbors hopes that Paolo will eventually abandon art and join him in trading. Paolo knows this will never happen. He has found his vocation, and nothing will turn him from it. He climbs the stairs to the family apartment, enters to find his mother, father, and two younger sisters finishing their evening meal. They welcome him warmly, his mother fussing about his thinness, his father asking about his day's work with the gruff affection that is his way. Paolo joins them for some soup and more bread, telling them about the angel's wing he must repaint, about Maestro Benedetto's teachings, about the progress of the altarpiece. After the meal, the family gathers in the main room, his father reading aloud from Dante while his mother and sisters work at their embroidery. Paolo listens with half his attention, the familiar verses of the Inferno washing over him while his mind replays the day's work, planning tomorrow's corrections, imagining the finished altarpiece installed in the church it has been commissioned for, glowing in candlelight during Mass, drawing eyes upward toward heaven. Eventually, his eyes grow heavy. He excuses himself and climbs to the small room he shares with his brother, who is away at university in Bologna studying law. The room is cold, for autumn has brought a chill to the evenings. But Paolo does not mind. He removes his outer clothes, says his prayers, kneeling beside the bed, and climbs under the wool blankets. In the darkness, he thinks about the nature of beauty, about how it exists. In the world waiting to be perceived, waiting to be captured in paint and line and color, he thinks about the responsibility of the artist to see truly, to understand structure and proportion, to honor the divine order that underlies all creation. He thinks about his own growing skill, the way his hand has learned to obey his eye, the way his eye has learned to perceive more subtly, more accurately. Paolo sleeps, and in his dreams he is painting on walls as vast as the sky, creating frescoes that encompass entire worlds. The figures he paints come alive, stepping down from the walls to dance and sing, to tell him secrets about the nature of beauty and truth. The Madonna smiles at him with infinite compassion, and he understands in the dream what he cannot quite articulate in waking life, that beauty is not separate from goodness, that truth is not separate from love, that the artist's work is a form of prayer, a way of saying yes to existence, yes to the miracle of consciousness that allows us to perceive and create and honor the gift of being alive. When morning comes and he wakes, he will not remember the details of the dream, but its essence will remain with him, guiding his hand as he picks up his brushes, corrects his errors, and gradually, slowly, brings into being the vision that exists first in his mind, then on panel, and finally in the world, adding one more small note to the great symphony of human creation that echoes through the ages. Section 8. Closing meditation and sleep transition, the eternal evening. And now, dear traveler, we have wandered through 7 evenings, 7 moments when the day softened into night, 7 instances of that sacred transition from activity to rest that all humans share, regardless of when or where they live. We have stood beside scholars and monks, artists and naturalists, warriors and tea masters, and in each we have found the same essential truth, that rest is not the absence of purpose, but its fulfillment, that sleep is not a small death, but a renewal, that each evening is not an ending, but a preparation for another beginning. Feel yourself now in your own time, in your own place, in your own body. Notice how your breathing has slowed during our journey, how your muscles have relaxed, how your mind has quieted. You have traveled through centuries without moving, visited distant lands without leaving the comfort of where you rest. This is the miracle of consciousness, of imagination, of the human capacity to transcend the boundaries of time and space through story and attention. As you lie here now, you are connected to everyone who has ever sought rest at day's end. The same stars that shone on Alexandria shine on you. Those centuries have passed. The same moon that Sohen watched rise over Kyoto watches over you now. The same human need for rest that sent Brother Thomas to his straw mattress, that guided Dr. Ashford to his bed, that brought Marcus to his small apartment in Rome, now calls you into sleep's embrace. There is no hurry, no urgency. Sleep will come when it comes, gentle as dawn, inevitable as sunset. You do not need to pursue it or force it. Simply allow yourself to continue relaxing, releasing, letting go. Each breath carries away a little more tension, a little more thought, a little more of the day's accumulated concerns. Breathe in peace, breathe out worry. Breathe in calm, breathe out anxiety. Breathe and accept. Breathe out resistance. Imagine, if you will, that you are lying in all 7 places at once. In the library of Alexandria, as Theon did, scrolls and knowledge surrounding you like protective walls. In the medieval monastery with Brother Thomas, wrapped in the peace of sacred silence. In Sohen's tea house, the scent of matcha still lingering in the air. In Dr. Ashford's comfortable bed, rain drumming gently on the windows. In Marcus's modest room in Rome, the city's distant sounds a lullaby. In Paolo's chamber, in Florence, dreams of beauty and creation already beginning to form. You are all of these people, and you are yourself. You are part of the great continuum of human experience, the endless chain of lives lived, of days completed, of nights welcomed. Every person who has ever lived has done what you are doing now, transitioning from wakefulness to sleep, from consciousness to dreams, from the known world to the mysterious realm where the mind wanders free. Let your body sink deeper into whatever supports it. Feel the weight of your limbs, heavy and relaxed. Your legs are heavy, so heavy as if filled with warm sand. Your arms are heavy, resting peacefully wherever they lie. Your torso is heavy, supported completely, requiring no effort to maintain its position. Your head is heavy on its pillow, your neck released from the work of holding it upright all day. Notice your face and let it soften. Your forehead smooth and wide, no lines of worry or concentration. Your eyebrows resting in their natural position. Your eyes closed or closing, the lids heavy, the muscles around the eyes completely relaxed. Your jaw loose, teeth slightly apart, tongue resting in your mouth like a sleepy animal in its den. Your cheeks soft, your lips slightly parted perhaps, your whole face becoming peaceful, peaceful as the face of a sleeping child, as the face of anyone who has truly let go. The room around you, wherever you are, becomes less distinct. Its boundaries blur and fade. You are floating in a space that is both your room and every room where rest has been found. The walls are both present and absent. Time itself becomes fluid, stretching and compressing, losing its rigid structure. Minutes might be hours, might be seconds. It no longer matters. You are entering dream time, sacred time, the time that exists only in sleep. In this space between waking and sleeping, you might notice thoughts arising. They come like bubbles floating up through water, appearing for a moment, then popping and disappearing. You do not need to follow these thoughts, do not need to engage with them. Simply notice them as you would notice clouds drifting across the sky, transient and insubstantial, here and then gone, of no importance. Some people find it helpful to count their breaths as they fall asleep. If this appeals to you, count silently with each exhalation, 1, 2, 3, up to 10, then begin again at 1. If you lose count, simply return to 1, no judgment, no concern. The counting is not important. What matters is the rhythm, the steady repetition, the gentle focus that keeps the mind from wandering into worry or planning. Others prefer to imagine a scene of profound peace, perhaps a beach at sunset, waves rolling in with metronomic regularity, each wave erasing the marks in the sand, leaving it smooth and fresh. Perhaps a forest glade, where dappled sunlight filters through leaves, where the only sound is birdsong and the whisper of wind. Perhaps a mountain meadow covered in wildflowers, the air so clear you can see for miles, nothing urgent, nothing demanding, just space and light and peace. Or perhaps you prefer to simply rest in darkness, in the void behind, closed eyes, in the fertile emptiness from which all dreams arise. This darkness is not frightening but welcoming, not empty but full of potential, pregnant with the possibility of rest and renewal and the strange adventures of the sleeping mind. Your breathing has its own wisdom. It knows how to slow, how to deepen, how to find the rhythm that signals to your body that sleep is approaching. Trust your breathing. It has carried you through every moment of your life, and it will carry you gently into sleep now. In and out, in and out. Each breath a wave, and you are floating on these waves, rising and falling, rising and falling, drifting farther from the shore of waking consciousness, out toward the open sea of sleep. The great naturalist Dr. Ashford knew that nature is full of cycles, day and night, the seasons, the tides, birth and death and rebirth. He observed these cycles with patience and care, recording them in his notebooks, understanding that everything in nature moves in rhythms. Your body, too, moves in rhythms. Your heartbeat, your breathing, your sleep and waking, all are rhythms, dances with time, participations in the great cosmic order that governs all things. Brother, Thomas understood that silence is not empty but full, that in releasing words and thoughts, we make space for something deeper, something that cannot be named or grasped but only experienced. As you sink toward sleep, you are entering that silence, that space beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond the constant chatter of the thinking mind. In this silence, there is rest. In this silence, there is peace. Sohen, the tea master, knew that each moment is complete in itself, that eternity is not a long time, but exists fully in each instant when we are truly present. As you rest here now, this moment is eternal. There is no past pulling at you, no future demanding your attention. There is only now and now and now, each moment giving way to the next like beads on a string, and you are the string, constant and unchanging. While moments pass through you, Marcus, the centurion, learned that a life well lived is not necessarily a life of great achievements, but a life of service, of showing up each day, of doing what needs to be done with courage and consistency. You have shown up for today. You have done what needed to be done. Now is the time for rest, for the reward that comes naturally at the end of effort. You have earned this sleep. It is yours by right. Paulo, the young artist, understood that beauty serves truth, that the purpose of creation is to honor the underlying order and goodness of existence. As you drift toward dreams, your mind will create its own art, its own beauty, weaving together memories and imagination into stories that may be strange but are always meaningful, always serving some purpose, even if that purpose is hidden from your waking understanding. And Theon the scribe, copying manuscripts in Alexandria, knew that his work was not for himself alone, but for the future, for people he would never meet, in times he could not imagine. Your rest tonight is not just for you. It is part of the great web of human rest, connecting you to all who have slept before and all who will sleep after, a gesture of trust. In the future, a belief that tomorrow will come and will be worth being awake for. Let go now. Let go of the day that has passed. Let go of tomorrow's concerns. Let go of your identity, your story, your problems and plans. Let go of everything that makes you feel separate and distinct. Sink into the great ocean of being where all boundaries dissolve, where you are both yourself and everything, where consciousness spreads out to include the whole universe and then contracts to a single point of peace, and then disappears entirely into the blessed nothingness of deep sleep. Your eyelids are so heavy now, or already closed, resting at peace. If your eyes are open, they can close whenever they wish. There is no effort required, just a gentle release, like a flower closing its petals at sunset, a natural response to the falling darkness. Your body knows how to sleep. It has done this thousands of times. You do not need to teach it or control it. Simply allow the process to unfold. Your body is already preparing, your heart rate slowing, your blood pressure dropping, your muscles relaxing, your brain waves shifting from the rapid beta waves of normal waking consciousness to the slower alpha waves of relaxation, and soon to the theta waves of light sleep, and eventually to the delta waves of deep, restorative slumber. In this deep sleep, your body will perform its miracles of healing and maintenance. Cells will repair themselves. Toxins will be cleared from your brain. Memories will be consolidated, sorted, stored. Your immune system will strengthen. Growth hormone will be released. All the housekeeping that cannot be done while you are awake will happen. Automatically, naturally, perfectly. You do not need to oversee this process or worry about it. Your body's wisdom is ancient and reliable. And while your body rests and repairs, your mind will wander through dreamscapes, through scenarios both familiar and fantastical. You might revisit places from your past, transformed by dream logic into something new. You might encounter people you know, or strangers who seem familiar, or beings that exist only in the realm of dreams. You might fly or fall or swim through impossible spaces. You might solve problems, or create art or experience emotions with an intensity that exceeds waking life. Whatever you dream, know that it is part of you, arising from the depths of your psyche, serving purposes that are meaningful even if mysterious. Dreams are the mind's way of processing, integrating, exploring, playing. They are ancient and universal. The Egyptians believed dreams were messages from the gods. The Greeks built temples where people would sleep to receive healing dreams. Indigenous cultures around the world have understood dreams as portals to spiritual realms, as sources of guidance and wisdom. Your dreams tonight will be uniquely yours, shaped by your experiences, your concerns, your deepest hopes and fears. They may be pleasant or unsettling, coherent or bizarre, memorable or forgotten by morning. All of this is normal and natural. There is no wrong way to dream, just as there is no wrong way to sleep. If, at any point tonight you wake, and you may, for sleep is not always continuous, do not be concerned. Simply notice that you have woken. Perhaps adjust your position, and then return to the techniques that helped you fall asleep initially. Return to your breathing, to the sensation of your body resting, to the peaceful images or thoughts that ease you toward sleep. Waking during the night is common and nothing to worry about. It is simply part of the natural rhythm of sleep, which moves in cycles of roughly 90 minutes, alternating between lighter and deeper stages. The night is long and generous. There is plenty of time for sleep. Even if it takes a while to fall asleep, even if you wake several times, you will still get rest. Your body is very good at taking what it needs. Trust it. Trust the process. Trust the natural wisdom that has guided humans through millions of nights over hundreds of thousands of years. As you continue to rest here, your awareness of these words may already be fading. You may be hearing them from a great distance, or not hearing them at all anymore, having already slipped away into sleep's embrace. This is perfect. This is exactly as it should be. These words are meant only as a gentle guide, a friendly voice to accompany you to the threshold of sleep. Once you cross that threshold, the words are no longer needed. They have served their purpose. Think of yourself now as standing at the edge of a quiet pool of water at twilight. The water is dark and still, perfectly calm, reflecting the first stars beginning to appear in the sky. You stand at the edge, feeling the cool air, hearing the silence, seeing the beauty. And then, without effort, without fear, you step into the water. It receives you, gently, supporting you, cooling your skin. You wade deeper, and the water rises to your knees, your thighs, your waist. It is the perfect temperature, neither too cold nor too warm. You continue walking until the water reaches your chest, your shoulders, your chin, and then you simply lie back, allowing the water to support you completely, and you float, looking up at the darkening sky, at the emerging stars, feeling the water holding you, rocking you gently like a mother rocking a child. This is sleep. This is the place you are entering. The dark, quiet pool that receives you without judgment, that asks nothing of you, that simply holds you while you rest. You are safe here. You are supported. There is nothing to fear, nothing to resist, nothing to control. Simply float, and let the water of sleep carry you wherever it will. The historical figures we have visited tonight, Thean and Brother Thomas, Sohan and Dr. Ashford, Marcus and Paolo, they have all entered this same pool. They have all floated in these same waters. Those centuries separate you from them. In the experience of sleep, you are united. The sleep that came to them comes now to you, unchanged by time, universal, and eternal. Somewhere in the world right now, as you rest, millions of people are also sleeping. Different languages, different cultures, different beliefs, but all sleeping, all entering the same mysterious state, all surrendering consciousness and trusting in its return. You are part of this vast human family, this community of sleepers, this nightly ritual that connects all people across all divides. The natural world, too, participates in this rhythm. As you sleep, nocturnal animals are waking to their work, owls hunting, foxes prowling, raccoons foraging. Flowers that bloom at night are opening their petals. Moths are visiting these flowers, pollinating in darkness, the way bees pollinate in daylight. The earth itself continues its slow turning, bringing night to some regions while bringing day to others, a constant rotation that has continued for billions of years and will continue for billions more. You are part of this vast system, this cosmic dance. Your sleep is your participation in the rhythm of existence, your contribution to the balance of activity and rest that sustains all life. In sleeping, you are not withdrawing from the world, but engaging with it at a different level, participating in its mystery, its magic, its endless cycle of death and rebirth, of closing and opening, of darkness and light. Your breathing is very slow now, very regular. Your body is deeply relaxed, almost motionless. Your mind is quiet, thoughts few and far between. Like birds flying across a vast empty sky, you are on the very edge of sleep now, balanced on that threshold where consciousness meets unconsciousness, where the waking world gives way to the dream world. It is time now to let these words fade away entirely. Time to stop listening, stop thinking, stop doing anything at all. Time to simply be, and then to stop even being, to dissolve into sleep's peaceful nothingness. The journey is complete. You have traveled through history, through space, through time, and now you have arrived at your destination. Here, now sleep. Rest. Well, dear traveler, sleep deeply. Dream peacefully. When morning comes, you will wake refreshed, renewed, ready for another day. But that is far away, in the distant future. For now, there is only this, the soft darkness, the quiet peace, the gentle embrace of sleep. Good night. Good night to the Library of Alexandria and to all the libraries of the world, repositories of human knowledge and wisdom. Good night to the monasteries and their communities of prayer and silence. Good night to the tea houses where masters practice presence and mindfulness. Good night to the naturalists observing the intricate beauty of the world. Good night to the baths and their rituals of cleansing and rest. Good night to the studios where artists create beauty from pigment and vision. Good night to all who have ever sought rest at the end of a day. And good night to you, wherever you are, whoever you are. May your sleep be deep and restful. May your dreams be gentle and meaningful. May you wake tomorrow feeling restored, grateful for the gift of another day, another chance to live and love and contribute your unique presence to the great human story that continues to unfold. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns. The moon continues its cycle, waxing and waning, eternal and reliable. The earth turns. The seasons change. And through it all, humans sleep and wake, participating in the rhythm that sustains all life. You are sleeping now, or nearly so. These words are no longer reaching you. Or if they are like sounds heard from far away, like waves on a distant shore, like wind in trees you cannot see. You are gone into sleep's kingdom, where time stops and dreams begin, where the conscious mind releases its grip and the unconscious mind rises up to play and process and prepare you for tomorrow. Sleep, dear one. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. Sleep peacefully. Sleep. Silence. The script fades into quiet, leaving only the sound of breathing, the feeling of rest, the peaceful emptiness of approaching sleep. No more words are needed. The journey is complete. The traveler has reached their destination. All that remains is the soft darkness, the gentle quiet, and the blessed nothingness of sleep.